Alright, so this is the grand finale you've all been waiting for. I'm just gonna get through this as quickly as I can. So here I go. Abd Aziz, I hope I said that right. Aina, Alec, who's inspired by Eric Goebbels, me Karman. Ankh, which I know I have Anka, but I like the name enough to use it. Asa, who's inspired by Library 2004's me Gavin. This name, which I don't know how to pronounce, but she's inspired by Professor CC19's me Danya. August, this name, which I don't know how to pronounce. Bjorn, who's inspired by Vanilla Cherries me Steph. Tisam, Carmine, who's the mix of Weemy Guys me's Katsuo and Mace. Celia, who's inspired by Z Humans me Nozomi. Channing, Kita, Cirrus, Custodia, who's inspired by the female me from Mario Golf Super Rush. Seer, who's inspired by Libra Warrior 2004's me Rebecca. Danica, who's inspired by Ecleo's me. Dexter, Diana, Dimash, which I'm sure you know where I got that name from. Donna, who's inspired by Libra Warrior 2004's me Kumi. Duncan, Adelpha, Ehekatl, Ellen, Ezekiel, who's inspired by Jerry's me Bellamy. But Toxic, you have several different Miis with similar sounding names. Why did you use this name? I like the name, okay? Francine, Freaky, Hutaba, which, okay, if you're wondering what happened to my Switch CPU me Hutaba, well, this is an OC I had with the same name that I made before the Switch CPU me Futaba, and that's why this one's here. And the other one, I changed the name, which I will talk about in a later video. Gallus, Baena, I hope I said that right. She's inspired by Vanilla Cherries me Nokia. Getty, I'm not even gonna try to pronounce this one, but she's the mix of Ivo from Wii Sports Club and the Weemy Guys me Ruru. Haskell, Honoka, Hugin, who's inspired by Michelle Magnuson's me Wallace. Aisha, who's inspired by Desi's me Masquerade. Inca, Ione, Isaac, who's inspired by Vanilla Cherries me Dove. Jiro, who's inspired by Megan from Wii Sports Resort. Ju Fang, I hope I said that right. She's inspired by the Weemy Guy YT's me Monique. Jose, who's inspired by Professor CC19's me Stefan. Julie, who's inspired by Libra Warrior 2004's me Avery. Julio, Kanye, Keres, who I've had like several different interpretations of. In this case, she's more like an Asian inspired dragon, like Chinese, Japanese, stuff like that. Kiro, who's inspired by the Weemy Guys me Misty. Koda, Coco, who's inspired by Jerry's me Yona. Leah Kelly, Lumi, who's inspired by Libra Warriors me Tomo. Matias, I hope I said that right. He's inspired by Desi's me Delaney. Milka, Milo, Mina, who's inspired by Vanilla Cherries me Walter. Modest, Moonin, who's inspired by the Weemy Guys me Mason. Naird, Nawa Akoa, I hope I said that right. Nene, who's inspired by Desi's me Suze. Nicola, who's inspired by Jace from Metopia. Nonoka, who's an OC I've had for a while. Oakley, who's inspired by Libra Warrior 2004's me Kenta. Ozora, Piotr, who's inspired by Jack Jealous's me Jace. This name, which I don't know how to pronounce, but she's inspired by the Me Boys me Ruiz. This name, which I also don't know how to pronounce. Rina, who's inspired by Rebecca, aka Weeabby YT's me. Roderick, Rosma, who's inspired by Anime Katrina 2021's me GA. Ryu, who's inspired by Libra Warrior 2004's me Kokoro. Sasha, this name which I don't know how to pronounce, but he's inspired by Desi's me Connor. Cecily Sleipnir, who's inspired by Anime Katrina's me Skylar. Solveig, Srapion, Steph, Sukri, who's inspired by the We Meet Guys Me Kamal, Tatum, Tenshin, who I have shown off on the channel before, Ungu, who's inspired by Professor CC19's me Freya, Vonani, who's inspired by Sophie from Metopia, Vienna, who's inspired by Jack Jealous's me Tressa, Wesley, who's inspired by Gex Ghetto's me Hidemasa, Wira, who's inspired by Newt Cat's me Maya, Wyatt, Zabat, this name which I don't know how to pronounce, but he's inspired by the Weenie Guys me Bao, Ye, who's inspired by Jimmy Kaz's me Martha, Ichezkel, who's inspired by Libra Warrior 2004's me Hisoka, Ihi, I think is how you say it. She's inspired by the Weenie Guys me Akiko, Yiko, who's inspired by Freddy from Metopia, Yoiko, Eunice, who's inspired by Libra Warrior 2004's me Anne, Yzma, who's inspired by Libra Warrior 2004's me Joseph, and finally Zulu, who's based on this me I used to have on my Wii that I don't have anymore, but I remember the appearance of, and yeah, that's my Wii DX CPU Miis.